Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to begin the funeral service. If you have a cell phone or pager, if you could turn it to the silent mode. Officiating is Rabbi Aaron Wolf.
Mizmor David Adonai Roi Leachsor Benois Teshi Abitzeini Amei Menu Choisin Aleini Nafshi Yishoivev Yancheini V'Maglit Tzedek Leman Shmoi Gam Ki Elech Begeit Samoves Loi Irora Ki Ato Imodi Shiv Techo Mishantecho Heimo Yenachamuni Tarech Lefonei Shulchan Neged Tzoireroi Tishanta Vashem Eroi Shikoi Sirvoyo Ach Toiv Vachesed Yidefuni Koyim Echayoi Vishavti Beveis Adonai Liyoirech Yomim. This is the 23rd Psalm, custom to say this Kapitel Tehillim, this Psalm, at a funeral service. Why all of a sudden do we talk about God being my shepherd? That's what it means. Mizmor David, Hashem Roi, the Lord is my shepherd. Well, let me translate this psalm in English, and then we'll go forward. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He has me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He revives my soul. He guides me on paths of righteousness for his glory. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you, God, are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You set a table in the sight of my enemies. You anoint my head with rich oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in the house of the Almighty forever. What is this psalm all about? Not going to elaborate, but just to give you a very important message that this psalm has for each and every one of us. The psalm expresses the most intimate, personal relationship of man with our beloved God. All kinds of troubles may happen in life, agony, but there is one comforting thought, and that is, the Lord is my shepherd. Why is that all of a sudden a comforting? Why is that comforting to know that God is my shepherd? What's that all about? Well, many of us don't know what a shepherd is because we haven't seen it on the streets in Chicago. We don't see the sheep, right? But the job of a shepherd is a shepherd seeks to guide and care for his flock. He seeks fertile pastures where the sheep may graze. He always stays very close to the sheep, and he helps them grow, he helps them develop, as he lovingly embraces and raises up the sheep who perhaps have been injured. And the same is with our divine shepherd, God Almighty, who watches over his flock. We are the members of the flock. Sometimes we may, in our despair, doubt, chas v'sholom, the justice of the shepherd, because we don't understand his ways. There's no way we can understand, just like the sheep don't understand what the shepherd is doing. But some things they know, but they don't understand because they're sheep. What do we understand? We don't. But we have confidence that our shepherd is concerned with our welfare. He has me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. So even if sometimes I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you, God, you're with me. I have that confidence and that faith. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. I know that the rod of the shepherd seeks to guide me. however strange that path may be, however puzzled I may be, but I have faith and I know that God is with me. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to pay tribute, pay our respects, and to bid farewell to Bernard Revsine, Dovber ben Avigdor. By a funeral, there's a bracha that has to be made. The bracha is usually those that tear kriya, the real close mourners, the children, siblings, and so on. And the bracha is a blessing that I've been at many funerals. Makes no difference what the background is, all the way right, all the way to the left, the blessing is the same. And what is it? Very similar to what we spoke a few minutes ago. Blessed are you, God, the King of the universe, Dayan ha'emet. You, God, made the right judgment. You made the right judgment. So here we are, mourning the passing of somebody who we knew, somebody we loved, a family member, a friend, and we say, God, we know you did the right thing. That's exactly what we said before, and it all ties in together with that psalm, that we have confidence in our shepherds, right, that we spoke before. Hashem Roi, He is our divine shepherd, and we have confidence, and we know that He does what is right, although we don't understand it. So what's the purpose of a eulogy? Well, a eulogy, there are many, many reasons, and our sages talk about it. Number one, the memories of our loved ones provide comfort and closure. But more than that, it's when we talk about, in this case, we talk about Bernie, and we recall all the wonderful qualities that he had, and we highlight them in a way that those that are left behind, whether it's family members or friends, can learn from and say, wow, this is so beautiful to see how he went to shul. And we're going to mention many, many different things that he was really important to him. And then if we take some of his habits, some of his behavior, and we apply that to our lifestyle, we bring it into our families, then that is the purpose of a eulogy. So the ones who can best describe Bernie are those that knew him for the longest. And of course, those are the children. So we're going to begin, although via Zoom, beginning with Paul, followed by Mitch.
My father was a very hardworking, honest, and moral person who transmitted his love of family, Judaism, the sense of humor, especially puns, culture, and sports to my brothers and to me. I remember he would often come home from work and eat dinner immediately without removing his tie. Clearly, this is something that he did not transmit to me. And I realized later on that it was because he loved my mother's cooking so much that he wanted to start eating right away and not worry about changing into more comfortable clothes. He used to do this magic trick where he would pull vegetables out of my ear while he was eating dinner. I was very impressed with that. I was young, but later on, I watched the famous magician David Copperfield do these incredible tricks on television where he would make an elephant or an airplane disappear. And I realized that in comparison to great magicians, my father's sleight of hand was limited to broccoli, but I still appreciated it nonetheless. He taught me how to play chess, and we used to replay famous games. And this is something that I did with both of my children. My parents went to many cultural events, opera, theater. They would take us to museums. And my father would always prepare to go to the opera. He would read the libretto, so he knew the storyline before he would go. we would have many discussions about politics, and although we frequently disagreed, I always appreciated his point of view, and it made me understand situations better. I remember he took us to Cubs games, even though he was a White Sox fan. So clearly he decided that it was more important to take my brothers and me to the games that we wanted to see rather than what he wanted to do, which I think was very unselfish. I remember later on, my parents took us on a Caribbean cruise for their 50th wedding anniversary with our families. I remember when my kids were younger, we spent a very nice Rosh Hashanah downtown at the Loop Synagogue. So all of these things were very important. He also would send me articles from the newspaper. This is when people had a clip and put them in the mail with a stamp. And I do the same thing with my kids, except now we send them digitally. So my father was a wonderful father and a wonderful father-in-law and a wonderful grandfather. He would always ask about the children. When my kids were young, he would take them out to do things with them individually, and my parents would visit and we would spend time with them as well. They took my kids to Disney World when they were young, and they had actually taken us to Disneyland when my brothers and I were young as well. So this was carrying on a family tradition. So I will certainly miss him very, very much. And now my brother Mitchell will say a few words as well.
Paul, very, very kind words. My earliest memory of my father was when I was around 4. And as I remember it, it was the middle of the night. It was probably like 10:30 p.m. And I was sleeping in my bed, and there was a very loud rainstorm, thunderstorm, lightning, and so on. And I woke up and I was scared and I was crying. And he came into my room to comfort me. At least that's my version of it. One other version or interpretation could be that he just wanted me to be quiet so as not to wake anybody else up. But he was really a very concerned and loving father. And he's definitely someone who led by example. There are a lot of things that we do because of him. For example, as Paul mentioned, he's someone with high integrity. For example, of that, he never organized a Ponzi scheme. But I would say to that also, because he once told me the accounting for that is very challenging. Also, he's very hardworking. And I think that we really got that from him. I'm appreciative of that. He's also someone who had a lot of good traits that I think I inherited. So the foremost one for me is that he was an accountant, so he was good with math. And that's something that I was always interested in from a very young age. I was a math major. I had a quantitative career. So I've been doing, math for 50 years, and I attribute that to him. I have a note here to talk about his sense of humor, although I don't have anything funny or witty to say about that, so we're going to move on. Lastly, I just want to mention something about sports. As Paul mentioned, my dad was, he was athletic when he grew up, and he liked sports, and we had a household with 3 boys. We played a lot of sports. We followed sports. And I have memories of playing catch with my dad in the front yard and backyard. But my best memory of sports with him was we used to play Nerf basketball. That's the game with little foam ball. And we had a bunch of these around our house. And that was probably in our house. That was probably like the #1 indoor sport that we had in our house. And I was looking on Wiki yesterday. It was introduced in 1972. So we were a family that were early adopters of Nerf hoop. So I used to play, again, my brothers and I would play and we'd practice, we'd do all sorts of things, but I used to play against my dad when I was in high school, and then in college, when I come home for the summer, on Saturdays after lunch, we go into our little den and we play Nerf hoop. And we played this game 21, where you got 2 points for a free throw, 1 point for a layup, and then you keep going until you miss. And we're both good at it. And sometimes, let's just say after your first turn, you'd have 19 points, but you just had to get to 21. And then your second turn, you do really well. So we would have games where the score would be 60-something to 40-something. And I think I won all the games, every time, but he was really competitive. And when he missed, he would get really annoyed. He was really into it. And that was sort of fun. And I always wondered, I used to practice a lot. I don't ever remember him practicing. Unless he waited till he went to bed and then he closed the door, and instead of doing taxes, that's what he was doing. But I have some happy memories of that. So when I went to college, my dad was the one who would drive me like with my stuff to Ann Arbor and then back, every year, the beginning of the year and the end of the year. And that was around a 4-hour drive. And I have a lot of happy memories of having conversations with him during those periods. And then in my senior year, my first semester, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do after college, I was talking to my dad on the phone one morning from school, and he suggested, well, maybe I should try consulting. And he said he knew someone at Arthur Anderson, which is now Accenture. And he got me an interview and I got the job and I moved to New York. So I'm certainly appreciative for that. And then when I was first in New York, the first couple of years, he wanted to see me. He liked me enough that he wanted to see me, but not enough that he wanted to pay for it. So he had to find a way to get to New York on someone else's dime. So he was an accountant, so he was part of this AICPA, this industry organization, which is, I'll just make a plug for it. It's really interesting if anybody wants to join it. But he participated in these committees that they had. They would meet semi-annually or annually in New York to discuss various interesting topics in accounting. And so he'd go to the meetings, they'd fly him there, and then we would have dinner in nice restaurants. And I always enjoyed seeing him then. And then, then after that, just for all the time that we lived apart, which is basically, after college and stuff for the rest of the time, I used to talk to my parents every Sunday morning. And my dad and I would spend a lot of time. The two main topics we talked about were sports and business. And he's someone, he read the Wall Street Journal for 50 years. So we had a lot to talk about there. We commiserated about our Chicago teams. But those were two of the main topics. And then once we had kids and we didn't have, really enough flexibility to go to Chicago, my parents would come visit us in New Jersey. And as Paul said, my dad was like, he really liked engaging with his children, his grandchildren, sorry, not the children, that didn't happen, but the grandchildren. He was very proud of all four of them. But even from the time they were little, he would play with them, and he was a very laid back grandfather. And I think all the grandkids liked playing with him. And he would always ask about them, even up to the very end. He always wanted to know what they were doing. And so he was very proud of them, and rightfully so. But he was, really a great grandfather to them. I just want to say, the last 8 years of my dad's life were really challenging. And I think he started his decline. It was the late summer of 2014. He had some heart issues. And from that, it just slowed him down. He wasn't as mobile after that. And then in March of 2018, my parents came back from a winter in Florida, and he couldn't even walk up the 4 steps to get to the front door of the house. And that's when he had to go to the nursing home. And, he was never happy there, obviously being away from his wife. And his condition worsened. He eventually got Parkinson's, and my mother died. And I think really in the last year to 2 of his life, he was in a lot of pain. And the last year, I don't even know if he was able really to get out of bed. And he was someone that, while he endured a lot of pain and suffering, physical suffering, he didn't complain about it nearly as much as someone could have. He still was a person that, if you caught him at sort of the right moment, he was still really happy and outgoing. And it was hard for us as kids to sort of see this deterioration in him when we remembered him as a much more robust, active person. So I guess in closing, I'll say, Dad, we really appreciate many of the things that you did for us. We love you, and we're going to miss you. Rest in peace, Dad.
Always try to connect with the parsha of this week. This week's Torah portion is Eile Toldos Yitzchak. The name of the parsha is Toldos. What does Toldos mean? Toldos means these are the offsprings of Yitzchak, Isaac. But there is another parsha in the Torah that begins very similar, but it's not Yitzchak, it's Eile Toldos Noach. A couple of weeks ago. And the Torah over there talks about the offsprings of Noah. And Rashi tells us that the word Toldos also means Maisim Tovim. Toldos also means not only the offsprings, obviously, that's the simple meaning, but the other definition of Toldos means what were the accomplishments of Noah. In this case, what were the accomplishments of Bernie And we just heard a lot, and I'm sure we can go on and on and on. I don't have the same experiences as the children do. I've had other experiences with him. So I will share with you what I know. And let me tell you something. Some of the things that I know, I heard from Bernie. And you know when? The night before his wife's funeral. He asked me to come and see him. He was in Buckingham at the time. And he wanted to tell me about his life with Joan. Little did he know that I'm going to remember some of that. And maybe somewhere down the road, I thought it's going to be many, many years from now, I will be able to use that for his eulogy as well. So he prepared the eulogy for me. Our sages tell us that there are three pillars that allow this world to exist. The pillar of Torah, the pillar of Avoda, which is tefillah, prayers, and the pillar of Gemilas Chasadim, doing good deeds, doing mitzvot. These are the three pillars, just like a home, a building has to have a foundation. There's a foundation. This world has a foundation. The only way it can exist. Just like you can't remove the foundation of a home, you can't remove any of one of these three. That's how this world is in existence, because there is Torah out there, there is prayer, and there are good deeds that are being done constantly. So I wanted to focus about the Torah, Avoda, and Gemilas Chasadim that either I knew from my own experiences or what I heard from others, and, as I said before, what I heard from Bernie himself. Let's talk about the study of Torah. I'm told that he loved learning. He loved to learn, and he found his partners who he could learn with, whether it was in KJBS, where he was a member there and he davened there for many, many years. He only lived, I think, over 50 years in the Peterson Park. So that was the first shul he went to for many years. And even when he was later on, when he ended up in Buckingham in the nursing home, he also had, and I want to acknowledge the presence of Rabbi Dudovic, who told me yesterday that he studied with him in the nursing home. He wanted to learn Torah. This wasn't something that he wanted to retire. I'm done with that. He was not done with that as long as he was able to. As long as he was able to come down, as they have a shul in the nursing home, as long as he can come down there and daven and study, he wanted to learn. That was very important to him, and davening was very important to him. As a matter of fact, one of the things that he told me is what attracted him to his wife way back is the fact that she also enjoyed learning, and she enjoyed going to shul. He told me that another thing that attracted him, he didn't talk about beauty. He didn't talk about anything else that may attract a young boy to a girl. He spoke to, at least what he said to me, the fact that she and both of them, love to learn, both of them love to go to shul, and they both came from a kosher home. And that, wow, we both have so many similarities. We're ready to get married. So doing mitzvahs, which is the third pillar, was also something which was very, very important. And I have many things that I experienced with him. I'll try to mention a few. As far as going to shul, even when I spoke to Paul and Mitch the other day, one of the things they recall is father taking them to shul when they were young and walking to shul Friday night. I'm sure you recall the same. Okay? So this is something which, will stay in the memory for a long, long time. The importance of going to shul on a regular basis. As far as doing mitzvahs, right, the third pillar, he was very, very meticulous in many, many mitzvahs that he was involved in, that he wanted to perform. I happen to deal a lot with mezuzahs and tefillin. He made sure every 3.5 years, it's time to come to my house. You got to inspect those mezuzot. If he got up one day and he felt like the tefillin, not exactly, something may be wrong. Rabbi Wolf, please come. Something was really nothing wrong, okay? And it was a pleasure for me to come and meet with him and talk to him. I didn't just fix his tefillin and walk away, okay? But he was so careful. He wanted to make sure that everything is done 101%. He asked me way back that, I think it was when he ended up, in a nursing home, if I can say Kaddish. I can say Kaddish for his parents, and then, since last year, to say Kaddish for Joan, which I did. But when the yahrzeit came, okay, a day or two before the yahrzeit, he is calling me. Dude, did you remember? It's going to be Tuesday night on Wednesday. You remember? And how about lighting a candle? Can I light a candle? When should I light it? Even customs that are not like, it's not like fasting on Yom Kippur, but it's a custom. It's something which is engraved in him, and he would make sure everything is carried out. I'll never forget. He couldn't reach me. All right, sometimes, people can't reach me. So he doesn't give up. Why is the rabbi not answering? He tries a second time and a third time. Afterwards, I realized I had a bunch of missed calls from him, So he went to the nursing home, to Mr. Stern, and he said, I can't reach Rabbi Wolf. What do you want? So I got phone calls. Don't ask how many phone calls I got. What happened? Everything okay? Don't forget to say Kaddish tomorrow night or whatever. It's important. You have to make sure. So even things that may or may not be on a high priority for him, it was a minig Yisrael, it was important, and therefore he has to carry it out. And I heard also from more than one person that he was a very, very humble. Just his nature was very, very humble. And never, you didn't hear him loud when he was walking down the street. He didn't make a lot of noise. Okay, he was who he was, and he did his thing, went to shul, went to daven, went to learn, took care of his family, but, no big fanfare. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing, to do things with humility, and that's certainly talks a lot. He told me about, which really is this should be on the top of the list. I should have started with this. He went out of his way, I should say Joan went out of his way, but it's a team effort, obviously, to do matan b'seiser. She helped a lot of families. That's what I heard from Bernie. That he said Joan helped many, many people in their neighborhood in a quiet way, brought them food. He said, in so many ways, that time he said, I don't want to tell you all the details in case some of those people will be in the audience. That was by Joan's funeral. And I don't want to embarrass anyone. So therefore, just say, I want you to say that she did a lot of things quietly and helped a lot of families, but don't get into details. I won't even tell you them, because then you may embarrass someone who is listening to something, that happened 30 years ago. But that, again, just shows you the kind of people they were. And they found a lot of things in common, Joan and Bernie, not just when they first met, but throughout their 60 years or so that they were married, right? Right. So as I said before, it's a eulogy. And of course, we're saddened. It's a funeral. We're mourning. But we cannot just walk away and say, okay, life moves on. You're going to get up tomorrow morning again, God willing, and, back to business. Yes, that's true. But when we leave a funeral, we have to think about, is it possible to apply some of those things that we heard, in this case about Bernie, how we can apply that to our families? Maybe if we went to shul once a month, maybe it's time to go a little bit more often. Maybe if we did certain mitzvahs less frequent, maybe in his memory, it's okay. It's okay to do mitzvot in the memory or in honor of someone. The Talmud says if somebody has a sick child, and he says, I'm going to give charity so my son should live. It's absolutely permissible. There's nothing wrong with that. You should do mitzvot because that's what God wants us to do. But if you say, I want to do it so that my son should live, there's nothing wrong with that. Go ahead. If that will inspire you, if that will encourage you to do good deeds, do it. Say what you want. And certainly, to do things in memory of a loved one is not just a good thing to do, but it helps the neshama. Because the neshama lives on. He's no longer with us. We won't be able to call him anymore. We won't be able to come and visit him. But the neshama, the soul, lives on. And the soul doesn't forget all those that were left behind. And he prays for them, and we can help the soul, and the soul can help us. Not just can, but will. So therefore, by us doing good deeds in his memory and in Joan's memory, this way, this helps the neshamas where they are and whatever assistance they need, which now is not the time and the place to discuss what's going on over there. I hear this from so many people. I really want to know what happens to the soul afterward. Like what are they doing right now? Are they happy? Well, what's going on over there? This is not the place for that. But there is something going on over there. Okay? They are going, as the Talmud says, mechayel ochayel. They keep on going from strength to strength. They are getting all kinds of promotions, even where they are right now. We can help them with those promotions by doing good deeds in their memory. So if we walk away today and we take upon ourselves one good deed in their memory, even if you have a pushka at home and stuck a box, and you drop a coin every day and you say, this is in memory of my father, my cousin, my friend, whatever, that's a good deed too. And happens to be that today is Erev Rosh Chodesh. Tonight begins the month of Kislev, actually tomorrow night, but tonight is the first day of Rosh Chodesh, the new moon, and because of that, there are a lot of prayers that we usually say at a funeral that we omit starting 12 o'clock today. So therefore, we will not recite the traditional Kemal Rachmim, but instead we will say a short prayer, and I'll ask everyone to please rise. Eternal God, Creator, merciful Father of all, your children bowed in grief. They seek light to dispel the dark gloom which threatens to overwhelm them. Be gracious to those who mourn, for they are in distress. Bless them with your compassion. Ease their burden of sorrow. Send them light and peace. As it is written, fear not, as I am with you. God says, fear not, because I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will sustain you with my power. And let us pray that we only get together on happy and joyous occasions. Now, before we conclude, because I am not sure if we will have a minyan, 10 men at the cemetery, I will conclude now with a mourner's Kaddish. There is a tradition by many that Kaddish can already start before the actual interment, so I will say the Kaddish now. I think I'm facing east. No, I am. Yeah, facing east. Yiskadal v'yiskadash mei rabo, v'yalmod yiverach yirusei, v'yamlich machusei, v'yatzmach pukonei, v'korev meshichei, v'chayechoi, v'yoymechoi, v'chayei d'chol beis Yisrael, ba'agolo v'zman kariv, imru amen. Yehei shmei rabo mevarach v'yolam, v'amei omaya, yizborech v'yishtabach, v'yispor v'yisumon v'yisnasei, v'yisador v'yisalev v'yisalol, shmei d'kudsha b'richu, v'yei lo mikol b'chasa, v'shir asa, tush b'chasa, v'nechem asa, damiram v'yama, v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shmaya, v'chayim tovim aleinu v'ako Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom imlemo, v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'ako Yisrael, v'imru amen.
This concludes the funeral here at the chapel. The interment will take place at West Lawn Cemetery. If we'll be driving to the cemetery, we ask that you have headlights and hazard lights on while in procession, and drive as close as safety permits to the vehicle in front of you.
Ask everybody to please come in. No hands. Anybody else would like to participate, please feel welcome. On the other side, thank you very much. Watch your step, everyone, please. As I'm asking the mourners to please to sit, please, the direct mourners, and everyone else can come behind the chairs. Yeah. All the way up? Yeah.
One second.
At this point, it's customary to do the kriya, the three sons, and the garments. This is the custom. So, Paul and Mitch, we spoke earlier. You have a garment, left side, left collar. Give it a little tear, and then we'll say the blessing together, and then you tear it even more. Here we are. Let's say it together.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Dayam Ha'emet.
Amen. Blessed are you, the King of the universe, for making a true judgment, as we spoke earlier. We have faith in God that this was the time for Bernie to bring back his soul to the Maker, and no doubt that he will be rewarded for all the wonderful good deeds that he has done while he was here for 80 years? 86 years. It's also customary at this point to ask mechila, to ask forgiveness. We're only human and we make mistakes. I think most human beings make mistakes, is that right? And if there was anything that Bernie wanted us to do, Dovber Ben Avigdor, whether it was from the time of his passing or whether it was earlier, at any time in life, that we may have done something that was not to his satisfaction. So this is the time when we ask mechila, we ask forgiveness. We are talking to the neshama, we're talking to the soul, and the soul is part of God. It's a chelik alakah. Because it's part of God, God always forgives, and the soul forgives. A human being sometimes can, we're moody, right? But the neshama now is up with God and is 100% holy neshama, and he, no doubt that he's going to forgive each and every one of us if there was anything that was not 100% to his satisfaction. As I mentioned earlier, Bernie was very, very meticulous about having Kaddish said 3 times a day. He asked me to do it for Joan, and I never asked him who's going to do it when he passes on, but I took it upon myself. And I'll begin today, afternoon services by Mincha, to say Kaddish, and the Kaddish continues for 11 months. Now, anytime you go to shul, any of the 3 children go to shul, throughout the year, although there's a backup, someone is saying Kaddish, that doesn't mean that you can't. You can always say Kaddish, and you make an effort to go to synagogue as often as possible and to say Kaddish. But you should just know that there's a backup 3 times a day. There are different customs whether children should also be involved right now in covering up the grave. Some do, some don't. So it's how you feel. If you want to be part of it, go ahead. Careful. Break it up. Yeah.
Let me do that.
Big pieces of mud.
But they're gonna bring the truck right up to the edge. It'll get broken up also. It'll be easier to move in.
To crush it up. Thank you.
Like, we have to bring the mountain a little closer. Bring the truck over, bring it a little closer. Let's do that again.
They can see. It doesn't. Me. Me.
This concludes the service. We're still going to do one more thing. Shura.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.